Just search for Smooth 981 on YouTube, and also don't forget to subscribe. Our analyst this morning is Joseph Obari. Good morning, Joseph, and welcome.
Good morning, Zibby.
Lovely to have you, as always, this beautiful Friday.
Same here. Good morning, Lagos. I hope everybody is tuning.
Okay, so we're starting off with Punch. Now, the president yesterday promised to address the shortfalls in funding and equipment that have hindered the operational efficiency of the armed forces in the country.
It's a good vibe to good soundbite. But the point is walking the talk. We've had promises made in the past by leaders, but what has been on ground has been different from what actually has happened. Question people keep asking is what's happened to defense budgets year in, year out? Why is it that we do not have equipment for our personnel? We can't kit them properly and so on. So it's not enough to say, oh, yes, we're going to do this, but it's to walk the talk. And also that if the service chiefs are not using the resources or the funds provided for that, what will be the consequence? We've had situations where poorly performing service chiefs on retirement, on leaving the service, were awarded ambassadorial positions as a gift. So there was no consequence at all for their poor performance. So we just want to see a change in the trend. It's not enough to say things. I don't like when government officials say, oh, this, that. Let's walk the talk. That's what matters to Nigerians. Insecurity is the number one challenge to this country. It's existential because the threat is existential. Our existence as a nation is being challenged by non-state actors with violence all over the place. So if any government just says things and about security and think that's enough, then they are not serious about what they are doing. As we've seen in the past, much of what Buhari administration did was to award itself pass mark in security management. But what was happening on ground and felt by citizens was the opposite of it.
So how can citizens generally measure or assess the performance of the armed forces in this battle against terrorism and insecurity generally?
It's just direct. I mean, if there was a point in this country where you can conveniently say, I want to leave Kaduna at 3 p.m. and be in Abuja in the evening, and you drive all the way from Kaduna to Abuja. You can leave, people leave Lagos and say, I'm leave Port Abuja and say, I'm traveling to Lagos. And they drive through the whole period. But some people can't even risk that anymore. You can't say, I want to take my car and drive down to this place. You have your heart in your mouth because you have your heart in your arm because you don't know what you will encounter. People have been waylaid, attacked, and all kinds of things happen now. So the impact is direct. It's not a matter of propaganda. It's not what you say. If there are communities that bandits are collecting taxes from, their crops are collected from them. How does that person feel? Whatever, it's just that he has to be able to harvest his crop without a molestation, do whatever business he has to do without suffering any losses. That will be direct effect. So it's not a matter of words or what people say or whatever. It's just the direct result of what happens,
All right, thank you, Joseph, for that. Let's go on to Vanguard now. Following concerns that tertiary institutions might increase tuition fees coming off the heels of the Students' Loan Act, the House of Representatives is warning against such a move.
I think it's one area the new administration has to pay particular attention to because the people have dissected the conditions for award of student loans, and they found them to be very, very how will I say, unfriendly to any student. In fact, the requirements for you to be able to qualify is almost impossible. So let's really see how this student loan is going to operate. But there's a timely warning to tertiary institutions that they should not unilaterally increase fees, even though the creation of the student loan scheme is intended that tertiary institutions should begin to look for funds for themselves. But then it has to be holistic. Whatever however government wants to address, it has to be holistic. So it shouldn't be that universities arbitrarily just increase fees without ensuring that, yes, students can really get loans. Other sources of support can come to the universities. It's a good call, but then the government has to play its role very well and be very clear that the student's loan is not abused, or the conditions for it are not really just frustrating for students.
All right, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981, and you can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming the show live, so you can catch that live stream as well up on our YouTube channel. Just search for Smooth981. All right, next headline comes from The Nation. Tinubu issues 4 executive orders, suspends key tax measures.
One of the key advantages this government has had is they've made the right call so far in many areas. Touched on, I think he's got very good advisors who are telling him where it matters. And one of these executive orders yesterday that was tackling taxation for Nigerian businesses, things that has stifled growth in the economy. So it's a very, very smart call, and it will go a long way in boosting the economic well-being of the country. So it's commendable. And of course, who is behind all this? We know. I mean, you have somebody, some of his very brilliant economic advisors, and they are pointing out that, look, you need to address this. You need to be able to tackle this. The Finance Act, which came into effect, it will be coming into effect in 2020. The order, I mean, that's coming into effect, has deferred the commencement date of the changes contained in the act, the previous act, to September, and so on. So the second order is on the customs and excise tariff, which also relates to commencement or taxation for certain category of investments in Nigeria. So the 5% excise tax that was put on telecommunication services was removed, because some of the excuses given by telecom operators is the high cost of doing business in Nigeria. Some of them have to, in fact, almost every cell center where your call, the boosters that hit your call hit from one location to the other, they are powered separately. So you must, when you build that, you have to provide the power generation for that unit and so on. That's a very high cost. So Nigerians are paying highly for telecommunication services because the operators are passing the cost onto the users. There are people on their network. So with this, we want to be able to see that the benefits trickles down to callers and people on the different networks. So these are very good calls, really.
Now, you did speak about, the president's team doing the right thing as it is. 21 days to the deadline that he has to get this cabinet together. Do you have any concerns?
I don't have any concern. I think this president is shown that he's ready for action. He's hit the ground, like he said, he wants to hit the ground running. The next day, hit the ground running and keep running and running. And we've seen that marathon. It's already becoming a marathon. Well, let us see that is sustained, and that he would. I'm sure it won't be long before we we have the cabinet in shape. And maybe he's doing consultations at this stage, talking to people, engaging stakeholders, and then making his selection. Nigeria is rich in terms of human capacity. It's very rich. So for you to pick from this whole number of persons, it takes a bit of time, unless you just want to do it by cronies, as has been done by some persons, just pick people because I know this person. No. Then you form a cabinet that really can't support your drive. So any president that means well for this country has to pay particular attention to selecting ministers, his lieutenants who will work for him to deliver on the promises he's made to the people. So it's not a matter of cronism or nepotism, and that was what characterized the last administration. Go for people who've got the skill. And the appointments made so far as to his special advisors are positive indications that he would pay attention to this area.
All right, let's go on to our live stream. There's a comment coming from Kilima, and Kilima says, the warning not to hike tuition fees is coming from the same National Assembly that has chosen not to look into the expenses tied to the turnaround of our moribund refineries. Something is wrong here. All right, keep the messages coming. WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981, and you can also tweet at Smooth981. This is Freshly Pressed. Stay with us. The show continues.
Hi, Evo. My name is Praise, and if you like good music, stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. You are an orchestra. Watching you move, it's like listening to a symphony of body parts directed by a maestro. When you walk, it is like watching a G clef stroll across an octave accented by a C sharp. When you talk, the cadence of your voice is a tenor saxophone, making love to a cello at perfect pitch. You are so smooth. That's why we keep it here on 98.1. This is Justin EJ signing out. It's loud. You like the music. Here on 98.1. Go by and understand it. Don't touch their thighs.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. We are looking at the headlines that are making the rounds across the country. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number to send your messages to is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981 and also catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth FM 981 Lagos. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on other live streams across the shows. Our analyst this morning is Joseph Obari. We're moving on to Punch. Now, the governor of Sokoto State, Ahmed Aliyu, has solicited the support and cooperation of the Swiss authorities in areas of education, healthcare delivery, and human development.
That is one area that just flies under the radar in Nigeria. What happens at the subnational in terms of support from foreign governments and donor agencies. Most governors just squander the opportunities they have to help improve their people. There are usually supports for education, agriculture, health that come in various forms. And most of the time, it doesn't trickle down to the people that really matter. The funds are squandered. So I hope that if the Swiss authorities eventually listen to the plea of the governor, that it will be utilized for what it's intended. And it's not just another money for the boys, That's been the trend, all over the place. If funds voted for agriculture in terms of support from foreign sources, don't really go into agriculture. Otherwise, we should be seeing the result in terms of exports of agricultural produce, lower cost of food and all that. But the truth is that how much food is government producing? Yeah, so ask yourself, in ministries all over the states, 36 states of the country, how many states will tell you, apart from a few states that have invested in rice production now, how much food is being generated from government projects? Some, you hear one intervention project launched here or launched there, and it's almost like it's just a performance to show for the public. But when you go to talk to the beneficiaries or supposed beneficiaries, they hear a different story. If it's loan, it's given to cronies, it's given to friends, the real farmers don't get it. So we have organizations like the Central Bank that have done meaningful things. Bank of Industry, for example, have done some things that are tangible. And you talk to the beneficiaries, they tell you how helpful it has been. But projects launched by state governments, as we say in Nigeria, we sigh.
So what does this mean, though, for some of these donor agencies and even foreign governments when they're giving these funds and then the funds are not being channeled to the right areas?
It's glaring because it's oftentimes it's very, they do their audits. That's what these people don't know. So when you find that donor support begins to shrink or it is sluggish, it's because they are not, and they speak about it. They talk about it. Sometimes when they have the opportunity, they talk about it. But they cannot force you, because the truth is that there's a pool of fund out there. There are some in the Western world, there are people who actually have created wealth for themselves. Out of their humanitarian nature, they will that money to some foundation, so they manage it for this sector, manage for these purposes. So they actually look for where they can put the money to benefit people and then hope that the result will be positive. But in Nigeria, even NGOs have been known to simply collect money from donor agencies and do shoddy things and send results that they want to send to the people. So they try to do as much as they can to match, to kind of audit, to kind of follow up. Sometimes they require you to bring a counterpart funding, bring some part of the fund, we bring this percentage. All of that is just to ensure that there is some transparency and accountability. If you go to the Northeast where they have pumped in quite a lot of money, if you talk to the people in the IDP camp, what do you hear? What do we get from you compare the life of those in the IDP camps to those who volunteered to surrender themselves from who are bandits or Boko Haram terrorists? What their lifestyles are different. The bandits or criminals and the terrorists are pampered in a government program. The IDP camps are more or less like refugee centers where people barely just live. And then the people go donate some food to them and so on, and all kinds of scandals.
Oh. All right, Zen just sent me a message via WhatsApp. It's a clip, it's an article from a newspaper. It's written by someone called Ian Birrell, and the headline is "Foreign Aid Blights Rather Than Builds a Nation." So I'm definitely interested in reading this article. So thank you, Zen, for that. We'll be reading this shortly. And Joseph, I could forward it to you as well if you'd be interested.
I'll be glad to have it. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the nation. President Bola Tinubu has said increasing population in urban centers across the country is emanating from extreme poverty and unemployment in the rural areas.
I think this story is actually directly related to the population census data and all that. But the point is that, yeah, I don't like it when government officials come up to tell us reason for certain challenges we have in our society. Yeah, so what? What are you going to do about it? That's what we want to hear. Yeah, there is poverty in the rural area has caused urban migration. So what are you doing about it? What are you going to do? So, Mr. President, we don't want to hear reason. We all know what is causing population to swell in the urban areas. I think if you wake up any child to primary 6, we tell you there is because people are leaving the rural areas because of poverty, because their economies are wrecked, and so on, and they are running to the city centers where they get the infrastructure they need that boosts level of living, and standard of living is higher in the urban areas for obvious reasons. You have more electricity supply in the cities and urban area than in the villages. So then we have a whole government agency that's responsible for rural electrification. What is their performance? How many communities are they getting electricity to? That's even though for those of us in the urban areas who we complain that we don't have the electricity. So yeah, okay. So even if they run the cables there, how much power do they have? So, and these are areas where we expect that government should be carrying out such programs like solar programs, standalone solar projects here and there. That's because the electricity need of those communities are very, very low. So you don't need solar to power fridges and all that, and air conditioners that carry a lot of load. So simple lighting of the place is what they need in those communities. So instead of waiting for you to run 11 kVA cables, and then it's another source of stealing of money. Why don't you just do independent power projects like solar projects here and there, sustainable power projects in these rural areas that will make life easier for the people and boost the small economies, very low, medium and small scale businesses that are running there. So they will stay there and be able to sustain their economy. But if they can't get anything, if you go to some rural areas, you'll be sorry. You're sorry. You just look at the people and feel sorry for them. And it is that bad. Yeah, so it's not enough to say, oh, this is what is causing that. We all know. What are you going to do about it?
Okay. From The Guardian, the NPC says that the president will announce new dates for the 2023 national census. Now, if you recall, the former president had postponed the census just a few days before it was built to start.
Yeah. We're not surprised. I mean, that the president is saying this, but we need to have the date. It's not just say, oh, he will say so. I thought that by now they would have said, okay, because they say it was something that was going to happen almost immediately, and then it was shifted. So I thought that some thought should have gone into that by now to say, okay, this is when we think we can do it. But then we'll wait. It's for me, it's not any exciting news to say, yeah, the president is going to choose a new date. We know he's going to choose a new date. That's the same thing I'm saying about it. Yeah,
give us the date.
Give us a date. We don't want to hear the president is going to. Yeah, who is going to do it eventually? Who was he? Was he supposed to announce it himself? It's the president that will choose a date. So when I hear some news, I'm like, what is news here really? Let's face it. What is the news here?
Wow.
But of course they just fill the space, and the man has come out to his feels he's done a duty, or it's passed him. There's been silence. Okay, ever since the census was postponed. So the man seems to be okay.
We're still here. Don't forget us.
Yeah, don't forget us. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
All right. Well, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. From Vanguard, the African Development Bank Group and the African Securities Exchange Commission have signed an agreement for a $600,000 grant. And this is to expand the number of linked African exchanges from 7 to 15.
And we need more of such organizations as the African Development Bank. It's done a lot. It's doing a lot to boost Africa. And ever since we had a man additional there, his focus has been Nigeria has gotten some favors, from his presence there. And we know what his pedigree has been and his performance when he was a minister here. He has a brilliant career and somebody who is Afrocentric. It is focused on helping African countries get to where they should be. We need more of such things. And of course, the stock exchanges are very critical to any economy and supporting them to achieve that. And I get very excited when I see media organizations who are focusing on reporting what is happening in exchanges in Africa. They talk about Kenya, they talk about South Africa, and so on, all of that. It's never been done before. But it's interesting that there is more interest. And what Africa needs that integration is very important. Where the signing of the African Trade Agreement, for example, has been implemented half-heartedly by African countries. So you find that in that trade or that flow of funds across countries is not really happening. Maybe the exchanges will help to bridge this gap so that I can invest in companies in Kenya or Ghana or somewhere, So when the exchanges are that open and vibrant.
All right, let's look at a few messages coming through. This one is from Cisco Delgado, and he says, I think the REA is installing solar mini grids in some communities now, but my problem with the program is not involving our local companies and indigents as a way of providing employment, instead bringing in foreigners as the owners of such contracts. And Gilbert Musa says, talking about rural electricity, this was highly effective during the Yakubu Gowon regime from 1967 to 1975, particularly in the Midwest region. We need to revisit the master plan to learn how to address this trend. All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. And thank you for your messages as well. Special thanks to you, Joseph, for being on the show with us this morning, and have a brilliant weekend.
You too. And thanks always for having me. Lagos, have a very safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves and rest. Thank you.
Very important. Thank you, Joseph, for that. That is it for Freshly Pressed. Do stay with us. There